Hello, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs and baseball podcast hosted by two comedians who live in New York and love the Cubs. I'm one of them. My name is Adam Mamwala. I'm here with your trusty friend, Kevin McCaffrey. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm so trusty. You can trust me. You know what, Adam? You can trust me to bring you the realness about the Cubs once a week, roughly throughout the course of the year. Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We're the most active on Twitter. Maybe one day you can follow us at Away Games Pod on TikTok. Don't steal it if you're on TikTok. Intellectual property. Calling dibs. We'll make.
What I really want to see is like extremely hot women on TikTok doing mouthing our really boring takes on the Cubs. Like that seems to be a big thing on TikTok, is like things that I don't even fully understand what the purpose of. Do you know Ashley Brooke Roberts?
Yes, I do.
She posted this thing the other day that was like, oh my God, hot women are like, lip syncing my comedy bits.
Yes, and I've had that happen on. You actually can follow me on TikTok if you want, at Kevin McCaff. But I've had that happen too, where people have just like used my stuff and talked over it. The most bizarre one was what blew up on TikTok was me doing a bit about my cousin who happens to be Mike Pence. That is true. Who the fuck would make that up? But that blew up and people started like mouthing that bit. And it's like, but it's not, I mean, I would get it if it was like also his cousin. It was a very bizarre thing for people to be lip syncing.
That would have been a fun wrinkle if it was only your other cousins who are also really cousins of Mike Pence.
At least two of them did post on TikTok about it after I did, which was a real, it's a weird chain reaction. But then I did a bit where I was basically being a guy who was really mad about Mr. Potato Head, like losing his pronouns or whatever. I don't even remember what happened, but it was something insane that people got stupid mad about. And people lip sync that. It's bizarre. So I can't wait till they lip sync our takes on the trade deadline. That would be great. Just people in swimsuits lip syncing about the underwhelming return the Cubs got for Craig Kimbrel or something.
I want to see a Victoria's Secret model talking about Zach Davies. That's really all I want.
You know who else wants to see that? Zach Davies. So we could really, maybe this would be something that could make a lot of people happy. But yeah,
funny. And I was just going to say, and listening back to our season preview, we obviously bitched a lot about the Darvish trade, rightfully so. But it is funny to me now that I've gotten to know Zach Davies, as far as seeing his face a lot, that the Cubs' entire trade was, we're going to trade for a bunch of 17-year-olds and an adult who looks 17.
Yeah, he is a youthful looking fella, isn't he?
Very youthful looking man.
And extraordinary. I mean, like, he's not, as human beings go, he's not small, but he weighs less than me for sure.
He looks small.
I mean, maybe he's 6 feet, a touch over, right, I guess, but I'd ballpark him at like 160-ish or something. He just looks like the smallest guy on the field outside of Eric Sogard, unless so yeah, it is like they traded for youth, whether in chronology or appearance, I suppose. But yeah, this is kind of our mid-season podcast check-in, and we made predictions before the season, so I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, I mean, I guess the past couple weeks of Cub stuff, it's not even that there's been so much to talk about week to week. It's just that like the degree to which perspective has changed week to week has been grand, I think.
Right. You know? We, as you alluded to, we release about one podcast a week, usually on Wednesdays. At some point, I put in our Twitter bio, episodes every Wednesday because we like the letter W. It seemed a little rude to release an episode on Wednesday in light of the Cubs' recent play, so we're releasing on Thursday so as to reflect recent events.
Yeah, there's no day of the week that begins with an L, so we couldn't do that. Lundi is in French, I believe.
Yeah, it's Monday, right?
Yeah, it's Monday, so we could have done that, I suppose. But I guess let's do a quick all-star check-in, since that is a little bit of fun stuff before we got to see, but Kimbrel did his job. Only got to get 2 outs, but that's AllStar Game. We're just trying to get guys in.
One was allowed out, but an out nonetheless.
One was allowed out.
Chris Taylor can really move in center field.
Chris Taylor's great, man. And I mean, like, when we look at how the Cubs, who were the best team and organization in baseball, but I would say between 2015 and I think you could say 2018. I don't know if any other team had a better run over that 4-year run. But the difference between where the Cubs were and where the Dodgers are, I think Chris Taylor's a great example, because Chris Taylor and Max Muncy are both guys who the Dodgers targeted and got for basically nothing. And they blew up. They just, Chris Taylor can play shortstop. He starts at second base. He can go get it in center field, and he's been great offensively this year. So
I'm also not entirely sure that he's not Matt Caesar.
Yeah, just
he looks a lot like Matt Caesar.
He does. That's true. Facially, he's a handsome guy, and he's just like Matt Caesar with a jacked up offensive profile. Matt Caesar only against lefties is basically the stats he's putting up.
Good artist though. Shout out Matt Caesar.
Absolutely, Caesar's great, and his bats are fantastic, as we know. So there was that, and then Kris Bryant got in the game and played some left field. Was mic'd up for a really dumbass interview with Joe Buck. That was just bumming everybody. That was just bumming everybody out. And he ripped the ball with the bases.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Kevin, while I have you, could you talk a little bit about what it was like to lose your grandparents?
Yes. That's the level. Hello, my wife is in here dropping off a coffee for me. It's a
badass appearance. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Unbelievable.
Dropping into the studio, dropping off a cold brew for me. I slept no hours yesterday. Peek into the lives of us.
If you think that's not going to be a clip on Instagram and Twitter, you got another thing coming. That's unbelievable.
Rocking a Muncie shirt from our college days. Yeah, so the Joe Buck interviews were awful. You had a very funny tweet, I thought. It was a tweet so good that I switched out of the away games account to go to my own personal and give it a like.
Yes. That's high praise.
Yes, it's high praise about Joe Buck. Just if he was talking to Hank Aaron's wife, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember what it was, but just like, hey, how do you feel about your husband not being alive anymore? Like, it was one of every interview that he did with seemingly every player was just harping on the most negative stuff. And the whole like Joe Buck and everyone who talked during that game to Kris Bryant with that whole like, we said we weren't going to say anything. Like, it has the same tone as like, I'm not being racist, but it's like, I can tell you're going to be racist.
Yeah.
Whatever is going to follow this intro is going to be something that I don't want to hear. Stop harassing this guy about something that is not in his control. Ask fucking Jet Hoyer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And I heard people say, well, of course, they have a mic on, it's national TV, they're going to ask him. I simply don't think it's interesting talk either. Like, because he has nothing new to say. And if you don't have something to talk about that's more fun than that at the fucking AllStar game, you are wasting this experience of a guy who agreed to wear a mic during a career highlight. It's Kris Bryant's 4th AllStar game. No one knows if you'll ever get to another one. And you're making him talk about his home team and what's gone wrong in a great career with it, basically. Even mentioned the losing streak, which is like, why talk to any player at the fucking All-Star game about how their regular team is losing? They're here with the best players on earth. Let's have some fun, for Christ's sake. And yeah, he did that. And then with Ozzy Albies, he's like, so Ronald Acuna's leg is decimated. And how does that make you feel? It just like, and I don't think we're unnecessarily negative about Joe Buck. I'd say we're more positive than most Cubs fans about him as an announcer.
I don't mind Joe Buck generally.
Mm-hmm. This was awful. He was terrible.
No, and here's the thing. It's like, I understand it more if it's them doing their like All-Star Game pressers. Like, I still think it's obnoxious. But this is an in-game interview during the All-Star Game, which is supposed to be all about fun and being lighthearted and having a good time and showcasing the sport. Ask him about his cute son.
Yes.
Why are we like talking? Okay, so talking about like all the different positions he's played and which one he likes most. Great. That's a great thing to talk about.
That's
cool.
Fine. Mm-hmm. Right. He was on the ballot as a third baseman and he was playing left field. Like that's an interesting thing. And and Bryant gives interesting answers. We've talked about this, that the Kris Bryant being boring, like thought is from people who don't listen to or read words. He's an
Right.
exceedingly candid and thoughtful baseball player, and he's fun. I mean, all you need to see is that when he and Rizzo were mic'd up, when Boog Shambi, a better announcer in this way, certainly, was doing, and he wasn't even the Cubs announcer at the time, but doing the games in spring training last year, you can have a ton of fun with this. And Joe Buck made players being mic'd up during the game an absolute fucking bummer. And like
I
I
also
said,
don't love the idea of talking to guys while they're batting. Like,
seems genuinely dangerous. Like,
yeah.
you know, Rizzo did a really good job with it when he was mic'd up before, but like, it's really got to be in between pitches, you know?
Right.
So whatever.
Also, like, how would you react if Joe Buck is in your ear after you strike out and he's like, "Oh, he got you there"?
I wouldn't, the earpiece would be on the ground.
I would be Liam Hendricks, is what I would be.
Yes, exactly.
God damn it!
Yeah, it's broken. I don't know. You know, yeah. I thought Hendricks handled it, but he handled it the best. And Hendricks mic'd up was the most interesting because Joe Buck didn't get to be involved. It genuinely was better than any question. Zero Joe Buck questions was more entertaining than literally any. So
and even in spite of Joe Buck's horrible line of questioning, Bryant still managed to give a good interview. And I saw somebody pointed it out on Twitter that, like, of course Kris Bryant would take the 2 minutes that he's being interviewed to specifically commend Patrick Wisdom on how well he's been playing. Like, you don't think that means the world to a guy like Patrick Wisdom to hear someone the caliber of Kris Bryant like mention your name during the All-Star game? I guarantee you that he appreciates that. So between that and just talking about like how much he loves the city and how much he's gonna like take pride in being a Cub until he's not a Cub, that's Kris Bryant. And like, I don't know how you feel about all of this, and I genuinely don't know how realistic any of this is. But wouldn't it be a really nice PR move, even if the Cubs trade Kimbrel, which I get if they do, to like extend Kris Bryant during this season and just have something that Cubs fans can be like, all right, this is our commitment to not fully rebuilding. We are not a team that needs to fully rebuild. We're pivoting. We have some pieces that we can get a lot for in the short term. For someone like a Craig Kimbrel, where you actually do have some depth in the bullpen, not a Kimbrel level person, but you have depth. But like, give us something that makes us feel like you're committed to winning and still believe in some of the people that brought us to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a great PR move. It would change the vibe around the team, even within this season. I think it couldn't do anything but help to have players on the team feel like there's some sort of direction here. I just think the team has shit the bed so bad by not choosing anyone to extend out of this core of players to leave us in this sort of really nebulous sort of purgatory of direction. And we don't know. They likely, we think, are going to extend one, possibly two of these of the three main guys. Who knows? But yes, absolutely. There's no reason. Rizzo said he doesn't want to negotiate during the year. Okay, that's fine. Javi said he's open to it. I'm kind of unaware of where Bryant's at, but I assume he's at this point he's certainly leaning towards going to free agency, because why wouldn't he? But yeah, I think I don't know why you wouldn't try to get shit done now. I mean, I guess you could say you wait till the trade deadline. If you're saying we're really focused on that, you should be able to do two things at once. But especially with a player who's been in your organization for this many years, you should have a relationship and some sort of level of communication where you're aware of what it would take. So yeah, they absolutely should do that. I think that would be so shockingly smart and good at this point for Hoyer and the Cubs to do. And I'm having a tough time figuring out why Kris Bryant shouldn't be the priority of the three guys to extend at this point.
I mean, he's certainly proven himself to be this year, and I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, of the three guys, when you look at their tenures with the Cubs, Rizzo is probably the most consistent year to year, but I still, yeah, I mean, I think Bryant is who I would prioritize.
Yeah, and Rizzo not this year, and that consistency hasn't quite been there this year, and then the half of, whatever, the 1/3 last year as much. And our friend Greg Huss, who follow him on Twitter, he's Out of the Vines, I believe. Yes, at Out of the Vines, but he did a great job covering the Cubs draft. That's another thing that happened this week. But he also pointed out, he was like, I was doing some research and I found here's the best free agent at several positions. And he was like, at left field, the best free agent is Kris Bryant. Center field, Kris Bryant. Third base, Kris Bryant. First base, Kris Bryant. I just don't know what you want in a baseball player or person if you don't want Kris Bryant on your team. I don't get it. And Anthony Rizzo is my favorite Cub of all time, I will say, to this point. And I think that should be a no-doubter to keep him around because of what he's meant to the team and the franchise, and because I think you can believe in a sort of baseline of production that I think will be better than what we're seeing right now going forward. But there are things where it's like that between the production this year and last year, between the vaccine stuff we know from Rizzo, which who knows if that's part of the tension that seems to be there between Wilson Contreras and him, and Contreras and some of the rest of the team. Contreras made comments earlier this week saying he's sort of frustrated because not everyone plays like him and Baez. And he really wants to win. So you can sort of just read into that because he didn't get more specific. But also, I think Anthony Rizzo, there's a good chance that this is a guy who we've given credit to as a leader. And I'm not sure the leader aspect, besides by example, which is important, but I don't think that clubhouse leader ever really developed in Anthony Rizzo the way that we maybe assumed it would, you know? And that's a deeper discussion for another time, but that's something I've been thinking about lately too.
I agree. I think especially showing the versatility that he has this year, and like it's not even like he's being just a team player. I think he genuinely likes moving around. I think it like keeps things interesting, and the fact that he's said that center field would be his position of preference. All due respect to Ian Happ, but he often looks pretty lost in center field. Like I would not at all mind KB being the center fielder, especially because like you play half your games at Wrigley. Do I think Kris Bryant is Byron Buxton? No, but you get to play half your games in a stadium that's not a super difficult center field. And we actually talked about this on the season preview episode as it pertained to Jock getting some reps in center. Like Dexter Fowler's not an amazing fielder, but he was good for the Cubs defensively in center field because a lot of their games are played at Wrigley. Like you're not in Detroit.
Right. And as much as I particularly love great defensive outfield and great defensive center field play, that's very true that you can get by with a guy who just has decent athleticism and can get to most stuff in center field with this Cubs team. And I think that is something that you maybe could exploit, because Brian has looked fine out there. I mean, he doesn't really have enough innings for you to see defensive metrics that really paint a full picture, but like he's looked fine there, and he's definitely someone who can fill in there, and maybe you could be starting him in center and stacking the lineup in creative ways a little more. But I mean, like, why wouldn't you want all these options, you know? So as this year goes on, I feel like I'm falling more and more towards, I don't know why Kris Bryant wouldn't be the first guy you'd extend. And by the way, if you want a bunch of psychotic older men to angrily jump into your mentions, say you like Kris Bryant. Like, I mean, that it's really weird how Kris Bryant has caused some sort of mental illness in people online that just like makes them freak the fuck out if you suggest he's good. And I'm talking Cubs fans. It's a really bizarre thing. If you don't think,
especially now, especially in a year where he's playing really well.
Yeah, and it's just, and even like I saw someone be like, "Oh yeah," it was someone said was complimenting the way he dealt with that interview in the AllStar game, and someone was like, "Yeah, he really did a great job blocking out the noise in June when they needed it." It's like you're picking like baseball players have slumps. He had a slump in June. He's on the fucking AllStar team and he earned it. Just don't be a schmuck. Like you can, there's reasons, you could have reasonable baseball reasons to go other directions. But if your opinion is that Kris Bryant is bad or has been bad for the Cubs, you don't know anything. Like you just aren't living in reality, and your opinion doesn't count for shit, is my opinion. So it's a really bizarre thing, but I thought Kris Bryant represented the Cubs great at the All-Star game. That's a happy bit of news as we head into...
there were even people who were like, oh, he struck out in a big spot. In the All-Star game?
Yeah, you know what the thing about that is you're facing a bunch of All-Stars, you dummy. This happens. I mean, Corbin Burns went out there and sucked, and he's awesome, you know? I mean, like...
The ball that Vlad hit off of Corbin Burns is still in the air right now.
It was, yeah, that was that was a fun mic'd up, because we had Tatis mic'd up and just caught his reaction. You know,
and that's ridiculous.
That was great.
Also, KB, like, what are the odds that you get 2 at-bats with the bases loaded in an All-Star game? Like,
Yeah.
the first one ended up being second and third because there was a pass ball, but
Hmm.
I feel like that's just like a rarity in general. And also, I forget who the left fielder was, but if that ball gets past him, the game's tied. Like,
The
that's
left
an
field,
all or nothing play there with the bases
absolutely.
loaded.
And the left fielder was a guy kind of playing out of position. He's a first baseman, and actually he
Was that
came up.
Walsh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Jared Walsh of the Angels. He's a first baseman, and he came up as a two-way guy. He came up as a pitcher, so, like also. So I mean, he just made he made a really good play. Bryant was swinging 3-0, ripped a liner, and just got a little unlucky.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, All-Star game. Kris Bryant represented the Cubs. Great.
Any Derby
He's been
thoughts before we get to Cubs first half recap
Oh, I just
stuff?
thought it was I thought it was fun. I thought Pete Alonso is a great home run derby champ. You want people who want to be in it. I mean, we think of some of the best derby showings before, and sometimes you'll get guys like Aaron Judge, who was incredible and then just never wants to do it again. And that's fine. That's his prerogative, but it's not as fun as a guy who goes in there bopping along to New York hip hop music representing the Mets and just hammering the ball and loving it. So I thought
I've
Alonso was
never
great.
seen someone more relaxed in a home run derby.
Yeah, it's so you want guys having fun doing what they're doing. He was great. Obviously, Soto Otani was a great showdown, and Trey Mancini obviously was awesome to see.
I mean, Soto hitting all 3 pitches out when it's like you only get 3 pitches, that's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, he's. I mean, we're looking at a Hall of Fame talent there. We're looking at a bunch of Hall of Fame talents in this game and this moment in baseball. There's so many Hall of Fame talents.
And I enjoyed the love via Pitching Ninja for Dave Joust. Is that his name? The guy who's throwing to Alonso, where like every single pitch was in the same spot. I don't think people appreciate how difficult that is.
No, and Dave Joust, son of Chicago sports writing legend Bill Joust, too. So that's an interesting little Chicago connection there. So great
Nice.
job to that guy laying him in there for Alonso.
Nice. You got anything else before we head to Cubs?
No,
chatter?
we'll talk about Cubs draft stuff maybe next episode or something because there's just a lot to talk about right now. But the draft was interesting too. We'll get to that. We'll do some of that talk next week. But yeah, let's do mid-season check-in, I guess.
Well, let's start with this. Overall,
Sure.
why don't you give me like a grade? What's your Cubs first half grade?
It's like you'd give different parts of the team different grades, but overall, I honestly think B- because I'm not giving them lower than that because I don't think you can look at this roster and think it's better than a second place team in this division, probably.
Right.
I think a couple things go right, and it's still a first place team. So there's room. There could have been an A.
Yeah, I mean a lot has to go wrong to lose 11 in a row. Period.
Yes.
Even if you're the Diamondbacks.
Absolutely. Yes. So and I think that streak alone is what drops it as low as B- for me. But yeah, how about you?
I think like a C, but I think to your point, it's like you can only be so disappointed if it's a C student getting a C. Like
right, exactly. And I here's the thing: if we talk about organizationally, I mean, it's like, are we starting on opening day? If we're starting on opening day, my grade's a little higher. But if we're counting coming into this season too, it drops way lower because the Cubs chose to have the weaknesses that they have shown themselves. I mean, what move worked from a baseball perspective, right? They dealt Darvish and Caratini. The main things the Cubs have missed this year, they've missed an ace and a backup catcher. And those are two really quality things. Even if Owen Casey and Reggie Preciado are looking good, and looking good in not even full season ball. So let's not get, I mean, I'm very hopeful for them, but let's not get too excited. And the Cubs chose to save a few $1 million by not signing Kyle Schwarber. How did that work out? Kyle Schwarber was at the All-Star game, mind you.
And same with Lester.
Yeah, and Lester
was not blowing the world away, but better than Arrieta.
No, but we advocated for signing Taijuan Walker in before the season, and instead the Cubs went with Jake Arrieta, and there is a money difference, but it's not huge. So there's just not. If we're starting the grades in the preparation to this season, I mean D. But as far as the team goes during the season, I'd rank it higher because the talent is doing what the talent is. I think for the most part.
If you know it off the top of your head, what is your record at Cubs games in the first half?
It my record is you'd have to give it an F, but it's 1-3 in
Okay,
person. What's your record?
I'm 2-2.
Okay,
So
two
that
and two.
seems
That's
about
good.
right.
I saw my favorite pitcher's worst game of his career in person. I saw Kyle Hendricks's Sunday night
Oh
Atlanta
yeah, that
game.
Sunday night game. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was the Wrigley game I saw, and then yeah, went to 3 of the 4 Mets games. Went 1-2 there.
Yeah, I saw a very good and entertaining game in St. Louis, that
Oh right,
Baez game-winning home run game,
that's
and
right.
then went 1-2 in New York. So
Yeah.
you know, not every season's going to be the magic of whatever it was, 2018, where I think I was 9-0 in person.
When you went, yeah, when you had the 9-0 streak, yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, so look, let's should we kind of go down the list here
yeah,
of how how good or bad our predictions were?
sure.
All right, so we started with comeback player. This is our predictions from going
Mhm.
into the season. It would be hard for me to be more wrong. I went with Jake Arrieta.
Okay.
I felt that some of his struggles in Philly had to do with poor defense behind him, maybe some of the pitching infrastructure not being so good. I thought that he would be rejuvenated in Chicago. Clearly, that has not proven to be the case. He's a borderline DFA case. I think that like him going on the IL is certainly one of those like phantom injuries. Like let's see if like we'll call him back up. We'll give him one more shot, and then maybe like it just is what it is, and we're gonna go our separate ways. You and Ken both went with Rizzo.
I mean, also not. I don't think you could say that's right. In some sense, you're the most right because Jake Arrieta literally came back. So that happened as a comeback player. He physically came back to a team he was on before. Yeah, I mean, like, Rizzo, I don't know. I guess you would say, look, the defensively, he saves this team so much and he continues to do so. You look deeper into the hitting metrics and he's still hitting the ball pretty hard. The shift has just destroyed this guy offensively in the
Mhm.
past 2 years. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you could call it a real comeback season because he's playing below what he's capable of, offensively
Right.
at least. And I believe in him, and I think the numbers will get better as the year goes. I don't know how much, but yeah. So I mean,
Mhm.
he doesn't Jake Arrieta suck at this moment. I mean, Jake Arrieta is having a real rough one um, on the mound. He had that good first month, and then since then, he's another guy who's chosen to keep this team one of the 8 teams underneath the 85% mark as an unvaccinated guy who also is playing poorly. So thank you, Jake Arrieta, for that.
They just wanted to stay under 85% to live up to your B minus rating.
Yes, exactly. That's fitting. Fitting, I would say.
I thought that my breakout players would be Trevor Williams and Jock Peterson.
Okay. Well,
Neither. I mean, again, I don't think they were bad picks, but I don't. It would be hard to say that either of those things have happened.
yeah, and we could say that, I think the narrative, and it's not incorrect, is that the Cubs chose Jake Arrieta over John Lester. John Lester is not having an amazing year either, but, better than Arrieta. But Trevor Williams was also chosen over John Lester. The
Mm.
money was not that far apart there. So that's another one that has not worked out. I saw the logic in it. The Cubs signing a bunch of guys who they thought they could really pump up for a half a year, get them in their pitching lab, and then possibly deal with Trevor Williams at the
Right.
deadline. I think is what they probably wanted to do. But
I'm sure it didn't help that he had appendicitis and had to have
no,
his appendix removed.
exactly, that sucks.
Speaking
And
of which, I feel like Eric Sogard is really the appendix of the Cubs. Like, what purpose does he serve? Really?
Right. Yes, he hasn't. And people are like, just take it out, and they're like, no, we don't have to yet. Yeah.
All right, you're gonna force
Look,
our hand. You're gonna wait till it becomes a problem.
and like Eric Sogard, much like an appendix, the only time you'll notice it is if it infects the rest of the body, really, which he could do. So that, yeah, Eric Sogard, you're absolute Cubs appendix.
All right. Well, I guess Ken won this category. Ken thought that Adbert Alzolay would be the
Yeah,
breakout player, and he's certainly been very good. And you're a big Bodie mark.
I am a
You're a
big
big
Bodie
Bodie
mark.
guy.
His numbers weren't really there, but it's like right when Nico went down, Bodie had a chance. He was going to be playing
Yeah.
every day. and then his shoulder flew out of its socket basically immediately.
Yeah.
So I would say that's definitely not a win for me. It's more of an incomplete than a total fail, but still, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say we collectively, the three of us, did best in the regression category, where you and I both chose Jason Hayward. We felt that his 848 OPS in 2020 was not real, and that he would go back to what he's been for most of his Cubs career, and also that there would be somewhat of a regression defensively, which I think is like a provable thing. Like
Absolutely, yeah.
He's still above average for sure in right field, but he's not like the best right fielder in the game, which he was for some time. And really hard to knock Ken on this one. Ken went with Jed Hoyer.
Yeah, that's the only way you could say, yeah, I guess we're all right on that one. Isn't that a bummer when what we're all right about is regression? I mean, that
yeah, it's not great.
Sort of tells you the vibe, I guess, of this year. But yeah, if we're talking Jed Hoyer regressing from his GM position performance to president performance, I don't know. Maybe some of the prospects he get blow up into stars. Maybe some of the prospects he traded for blow up into stars. But there's not a baseball decision of any major significance that you can tell me that Jed Hoyer did that has worked out. And I said this not in a haterish way, but then people are like, "What about Matt Duffy?" And I'm like, "Man, if you're bringing Matt Duffy to the other side of an argument that involves not having Yu Darvish, Victor Caratini, Kyle Schwarber, I mean, like there." I'm not saying, look, law of averages, you're going to do something that makes some sense just by accident, but you've nothing of significance, no move of significance to me has truly made sense or worked out in a good way for Hoyer this year. And Jason Hayward, it's just, I mean, God bless, we're kind of counting down the days on this contract. It's a couple more years, but the offense is awful, man. And the defense.
If Lester is the best free agent signing in Cubs history, is Hayward the worst?
Definitely not. No, because Milton Bradley exists. So I guess.
How big of a contract did he get, though?
It was significant, but it was for a lot shorter of a time. I guess I mean, Hayward has been a contributor to good teams and to a championship team in some degree. So I won't say that, but I mean, I think if you're saying the Jason Hayward contract was a good one, I think those are some rose-colored glasses because no. Like he's making Bryce Harper per year money, and yes, Harper's making it for much longer, but that was
what are the odds that Harper and Bryant end up playing for the Las Vegas Athletics?
I mean, just because they're the Athletics, I say low in terms of money they pay, unless like Steve Wynn buys the team or something in Vegas. But I mean, like the odds that they would play for the same team, I mean, it's not nothing, you know.
Yeah. Well, bold predictions. This was interesting. You actually said that Rizzo would be anti-vax. I'm kidding. You didn't say that. Really took a shot there. Ken and I were way off. And your prediction was very good. My prediction was that Brandon Workman would supplant Craig Kimbrel as the closer.
Wow, Brandon Workman, I completely forgot about. I
think he ended up somewhere else. I believe he's somewhere else right now, right?
I don't even know. I have not heard that name. I haven't heard that name in 40 years. There
was a guy named Brandon Workman, but
Brandon Workman was pitching for this team. Pedro Strop got a win for this.
Jason Adam.
Jason Adam, RIP, that knee or ankle, whatever happened. Poor guy. Okay. That's Kimbrel's the guy who the Cubs are going to trade, and that I'm fine with if they get something of a return, I will say.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they're going to get a Glaber type prospect, but it is essentially the same exact situation. It's like, how much do you want this guy for half a season when he's been one of, if not the best closers in baseball? Is he the best closer in baseball right now?
Yeah.
I think his stats would back that up, right?
Yeah, the stats back that up for this year, certainly. ERA under 1, and, just the stats back it up, the stuff backs it up, and his history backs it up. He's one of the best closers of all time, and he's pitching like it.
Yeah. Ken, I was arguably had an arguably worse prediction than I did through no fault of his own. I appreciate the pick. He thought that Jake Arrieta would throw his third no-hitter. Now, that is a thing that is still possible.
Yeah, it could happen.
But it seems unlikely.
Right. If the Cubs are running him out one or two more times, they could be like, throw your arm off. This is it. And who
Right.
knows? But yeah.
The old one more.
Yes. Yeah,
He's gonna
Costner,
Busey it.
perfect game it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a good prediction. The Cubs are not in first place at the moment, but your prediction was the Cubs will sell from first place as the deadline approaches, which I think
Yes.
would have happened if they were like tied for first place right now. I could see that having happened, and I certainly think they'll sell now.
I think so too. The one thing I will say, so the Cubs are sitting in third place right now, 4 games behind Cincinnati in second of all things, and tied with the Cardinals, which is unfortunate. And so tied for third there. But yeah, I think if they were tied for first, I don't think they would have bought. I don't know how much they would have sold. I guess like I believed that when the Cubs were in first by 3 games, I thought if like I had turned into someone, and I still believe that they would have added to the team if that was the case. So that sort of
Yeah.
surprised me. But yeah, I thought they were going to. I thought the roster was good enough to have them in first at this point, in this division specifically. But I thought they wouldn't really be a World Series contender, and thus
Mhm.
they would be selling from first, sort of White Sox, white flag style ish, from the '90s, long time ago. But yeah, I mean, so, but yeah, close, but not exactly right.
Right. We for our Cubs MVP, you went with Contreras, Ken went with Rizzo, and I went with KB. So I guess I'm the most right
Yeah, I
of
think
our
so.
first
Hmm.
half MVPs. One player the Cubs will trade for or trade away. I thought Trevor Williams. You thought Trevor Williams, and you also said Kimbrel if he's good. So very right on that. You did cite Workman or Jason Adam to replace him, so less right about that. But how could we have
Yes,
known?
right.
And you also said like it could be plenty of people that will be traded away, which I think is also right. Ken thought Zach Davies, so I think of those people, like Davies and Williams have no trade value whatsoever. So I
I
don't think you'll see that probably, but
I
maybe I don't
I
know.
could see Davies going somewhere. Davies could be a very like I feel like Jeff Suppan was a pitcher who always had an ERA in like the mid
Mm,
fours and somehow always got dealt at the deadline to a team
yeah,
looking for a number five. So I could see
I like a
Zach.
guy whose last name sounds like your mom telling you the dinner's ready.
Yes, yes. Jeff Beef is cooked. Jeff Suppan. Yeah, so I can see Davies going in a deal like that, and the Cubs just wanting to get some of the guys in AAA are currently in the bullpen one way or the other. You have to open up some starting positions if you want to see, like Justin Steele's been getting stretched out, and
Yeah,
if you want to see Justin Steele, Keegan Thompson, and Corey Abbott getting innings, which I do, in that rotation, you're going to have to open it up. So the Cubs could be, and the Cubs aren't re-signing Davies after this year either. So
right.
that might be a deal for just a real low minors flyer.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I could see this kind of being a slow speed car wreck where we just have to like slowly watch our beloved team get dismantled, like one of the things that does excite me about the second half is the prospect of seeing guys like Steele starting games and like being able to get excited about what the future could be, especially when this team has been so starved for homegrown pitching for seemingly our entire lives almost. Like it's been a long time since there's been this many good arms in the system. So I feel like that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't think these arms. It's not knocking them to say it would be shocking if they were at the level of homegrown arm as the Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, Carlos Zambrano years, but like it's the first real encouraging signs of homegrown pitching since then. Now you could give Kyle Hendricks a little bit of credit. The Cubs traded for him when he was a minor leaguer,
Mhm.
but yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, the fact that I now believe in how the Cubs are bringing pitchers through and the talent that is there is another reason why I think it's inexcusable to not extend some of the useful bats you have.
Right.
It's time to, they used to draft and develop bats by pitching, used to be the
Mhm.
philosophy. Now it makes all the sense in the world to be developing that pitching and to mostly spend the money on bats to try to fix this offense that we declared dead 3 years ago. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. All right. So as we wind down this episode, before Kevin goes to talk to Michael Rappaport, no
Yeah, I have to
context. We're
do.
not going to explain that.
Yeah.
Uh, we our team predictions. As always, I was the biggest homer of the bunch. I predicted the old 2003, the old 88 and 74 win the division by 1 game over the Cardinals. Don't feel good about any of that right now.
Could
Ken went
finish
with
one game
80.
above the Cardinals.
It's true. That is true. That part is true.
Yeah.
Ken went with 86 and 76, a second place finish, and you went with 81 and 81. Finish in third place, and your rationale was, "quote What record would piss me off the most?" And I mean, that seems right in line with where this team is going. So I guess to wrap up, what do you got for the second half? Where does this team finish? Who's gone from the team? Who's here right now? Like, what are some storylines that you're looking at for the second half?
I mean, obviously, right now it's all about seeing who remains after the trade deadline, because now there's not the two weird trade deadlines that there used to be, where there was the one and then it was the next one involved clearing waivers too,
Right.
for another. So we're at least going to get clarification at the trade deadline. So it's really just waiting for that, seeing what the returns are for anybody. I really just don't see. I've come around to the idea that I don't think any of the big three bats are going to get you a return that feels like enough of an advantage that it outweighs keeping them on this team, offering them the qualifying offer. If they don't take it, if they sign somewhere else, you get a pick. It's after the second round, so it's not like a super studly pick, but you can stack picks in a relatively valuable position there if they don't sign. But it also keeps your exclusive negotiating window open longer with these guys. And to me, that's more valuable than probably anything you're going to get for Rizzo, Baez, or maybe Bryant. I'd have to see what the deals are that are out there, because if you get, if it's me playing a video game, I would deal them for the best prospects, and then I would pay whatever money it takes to sign in the offseason. But that's just not typically how the world works. So I think really we're going to see Kimbrel traded, and that could be interesting. But I think,
and that should happen.
It should happen. And that, but beyond that, I'm unconvinced that the Cubs can get a deal for any of the three guys, Brian included, that would make me feel like that outweighs the advantage of exclusively negotiating with them with the backup plan of offering a qualifying offer to get something.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm like on board fully with trading Kimbrel. I think it's the right move objectively. I think if they move a guy like Davies or any of the kind of like ancillary pieces, that even like a Marisnik or someone who like might have some value for a team, in the way that the Cubs always end up acquiring like a Cameron Maybin sort of guy who's like a extra outfielder. Like, sure, go ahead, get some player to be named later or some smaller known prospect. But yeah, I'm with you. I think. I don't, emotionally and otherwise, I really do not want to see Baez, Rizzo, or Bryant traded. So we'll see.
I will say, in terms of the smaller pieces, a trade that I was thinking about, is when the Cubs traded James Russell and Emilio Bonifacio to the Braves for a minor league third baseman / catcher named Victor Caratini. Like there are, and James Russell and Emilio Bonifacio, that's kind of like, you can feel that with like a Zach Davies sort of Marisnik sort of trade.
Right.
So you can get value in deals like that, but you gotta be right, as Theo said.
Do you think there are any other bullpen arms that the Cubs would consider trading? Like, I don't want to see the Cubs trade Andrew Chafin or something like that. Like, I
think Chafin, there's a good chance he's gone. I would say, because I think there might be an option on his deal going into next year, but it wouldn't. I don't think it's going to be mutually picked up anyway. So I love Chafin, but that also makes sense as a guy to me.
And you are selling at peak value.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to get better than this. So
right. Yeah, Tepera even, like I don't know if that's somebody who, but who are the other big closers who might be moved?
I mean, it's hard to really think of any, because I mean, I don't think the Yankees are going full selling, even though they're in a Cubs-ish position, and Chapman has sucked lately. There's not a ton.
Maybe my favorite tweet from you this whole year from our account. Chapman's in the AllStar game. What, to pitch the home run derby?
Yeah, you could have done the joust move to Alonso lately. Yeah, man. Chapman has sucked, but he was there. So, yeah. But it'll be, it's just time to see. It's been a long time since we've had a season like this, and half a season like this to be interested in this way. So I guess let's try to enjoy that aspect of it and hope they
Well,
surprise us.
you predicted 81 and 81 back in March. You see the Cubs over or under 500 at the end of the year?
Under, I would say under, but not by enough to get like an amazing pick or anything, because there still is talent on this team. I think they're going to keep a decent amount of it, but they're 2 games under 500. I don't see them playing much better than that once you take away pieces. So, yeah.
All right, well, I think that's all we got. Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We've been putting up some clips from the episodes. We're going to keep doing that, and I think that's all I got.